Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And this time we have another special video by our good friend and buddy David S.J. up in the great state of New York. He has put together a two-part series called PATCHBAY 101 for Beginners, or at least that's what I'm calling it, PATCHBAY 101 for Beginners. This is going to be part one of two, where we're going to go up to Dave's studio and he's going to break down how you set up a PATCHBAY from absolute scratch in its most basic form. A lot of you guys asked about it, and he has stepped up to the plate and has gone ahead and done that for us. So thank you very much, David S.J., for providing this content for all of our viewers. So I want you to go in the description box below after you're done watching this video and support David S.J. Go check out his Instagram page. Go check out his YouTube channel. He's got some really great content there. So make sure you like, share, subscribe this particular video and share it with others. Also hit that notification bell. And if you want to learn more about my mixing and mastering services, where you can have your music mixed on an SSL, go check out mixingmusicanalog.com. So without further ado, let's go back up to New York and let's talk with David S.J. and let's learn all about setting up a PATCHBAY.
Hey guys, we get a lot of questions in the comments on a lot of our videos about PATCHBAYs and how do we set up PATCHBAYs and what's the best way to get started with them. So I figured I would do a video for you guys about basically just like, let's just call this PATCHBAY 101, okay? So what we're gonna do in this video is I'm gonna go through some basics of PATCHBAY functions. We're gonna show you how to do some setups with them, how to hook them up, ways to plan and configure your PATCHBAYs to work for what you have available to you in your studio. And I'm also gonna probably give you a little bit of a tour behind my racks to show you what I do with the PATCHBAYs in my studio, as well as what ideas that you can use in your own. Okay, so let's get moving on this, okay? All right, so let's just get an overview of basic PATCHBAY functions and the things that you want to pay attention to when you're purchasing your first PATCHBAY and setting it up, okay? This is the first one I ever bought. This is the Behringer Ultra Patch Pro. This is a balanced PATCHBAY, which uses the TRS type patch connectors. You can use unbalanced cables with this as well if you want, but I recommend getting a balanced PATCHBAY because you want everything in the studio to be as clean as possible, and a balanced PATCHBAY gives you a better option for that using balanced cables, okay? So the first thing you need to notice about a PATCHBAY is it's got jacks on both sides, okay? The jacks in the back is where you plug in all the hardware and stuff that's in your rack, and then the jacks on the front are where you jump with the patch cables to the different functions for it, okay? Each one of these pairs, top and bottom, is tied together with the two in the back, all right? So basically what you want to think of is that each one of these is a channel on the PATCHBAY. So the first thing to notice is that these PATCHBAYs have three basic modes. They have a normaled, a half normaled, and a through function, and that can be selected in the PATCHBAY by several different means. The Behringer Ultra Patch has switches on top, and if I come in close enough, you can see that it says normaled, through, and half normaled, and each set of channels has a switch, so all 24 channels can be selected with that switch individually, so you can set a PATCHBAY up to multiple functions at the same time. Okay, basically the three functions are, like I said, normaled, half normaled, and through. Normaled, in a normaled one, these jacks in the back, the input and the output jacks in the back, are tied together and there's constantly signal flowing through them, okay? That's useful for if you have a desk with an insert function that the audio is constantly flowing through that insert jack on the console. So you don't want, if you plug into a PATCHBAY and interrupt it, you don't want to do that. So basically the normal is for something where you want the audio to constantly be flowing through the PATCHBAY and back out again. Okay, basically the idea with the normal is that the audio comes in the front and then right back at the back. It's the same idea as if you just jumpered the front input and output on the PATCHBAY. It's the same idea of just having it so that you don't have to have something plugged into it to jumper the audio. Normaled, when you have a normaled, the audio is constantly flowing through in and out the back jacks, and that is interrupted when you plug a patch cable into the front. You're interrupting that signal, okay? And you can then move it to a different one, or you can jumper it that way, or you can send to another piece of hardware, however you want it to work, okay? Normal is a great function if you need to have the audio constantly flowing through the patch bay, but when you're using hardware in a studio and you're using it just to patch signals into and out of the hardware, normal and half normal are not the way you want to go, okay? By the way, half normal is the same thing as normal, but when you plug a patch cable into the front jack output, you're not interrupting the flow. It's still flowing through. You're basically tapping off the signal. And that's useful if you want to send audio from a loop to like a monitor set, or if you want to use it to like side chain to a compressor that has a side chain input, something like that, where you don't want to interrupt the flow. Half normal is what you would use for that. The through function, there's no audio flowing through the jacks. It just ties the jacks in the back straight to the jacks in the front with no constant audio flowing through. With the through function, if you wanted to have audio flowing through the channel, you would have to have a patch cable in the front, okay? So those are the three basic functions. When using hardware in the studio, you basically want to have it set on the through mode. Because what happens is if you have the audio in normal or half normal, then there's the signal always running through it, you end up with like a constant loop of audio into and out of the hardware, and that's not good for the hardware. And I'm going to do a practical demonstration of what that looks like in my studio in a few minutes, okay? So which will give you a really good idea of why you do not want to do that, okay? Like I said, at this one, the Behringer has all three functions that are switchable here. You can also get patch bays from companies like Neutrik and DBX, who basically have like modules or cards. Each one of these channels is a module or card, and you can flip it over inside the chassis to get whichever function you want it to have. It's actually probably better than a switched because it's one less thing to fail, but it's kind of a bit of a pain in the butt to every time you have to change it, to have to pull the patch bay out, open the chassis up, flip the cards over, put it back in. Switches are a lot easier to deal with. As far as like durability is concerned, like I said, I've had this thing for a number of years now and it still functions just fine. So I really don't have any issues with this, okay? Another choice for patch bays, and the thing you have to look out for is this. This is the ART 48 channel patch bay. This one also has the switches on the back, as you can see here, but these switches are limited to normal and half normal only. This patch bay does not have a through function. And this would not be good to use in a hardware situation because it does not have that. So if I could ever say anything to ART guys, it would be, hey guys, you gotta add a through function to this patch bay. It would be a really good patch bay if it had the through function. So this is one that doesn't really ever get used in my studio, okay? So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to set up a little demonstration for you and give you show you how to basically like plan and prepare to set up a patch bay in a rack situation, and give you an idea of how the functions work and how you want everything to be plugged in. Okay, so I'll be back in a couple minutes and show you that. Okay, so by way of a practical demonstration of why you want a through option on your patch bay for using hardware like this, to show you what happens if you don't have it and what that constant loop can do. I'm gonna do this on my patch bay here. I'm gonna use this DBX 560A compressor, okay, which is on this input here, okay? Here's the switch for it goes in the left position, it's normal, in the center position, it's through, and in the right position, it's half normal, okay? So at this point, this whole system is idling. There's no audio coming through anything, okay? The system is completely idling. For that matter, I don't even have a DAW open on the computer. So there's no audio flowing through this whatsoever, okay? When it's in through this thing, there's nothing happening, okay? So if I switch this over to normal, and I leave this below zero output, nothing's gonna happen either, okay? So if I do that, if I switch that to normal, okay? It's now on normal, all right? There's nothing happening on this particular compressor at this point, but if I turn the output up just a little bit past 0 for a positive gain on the output, you can see that there is a constant signal running through this thing, okay? And if I change if I change the threshold, you'll see that the threshold, it's affecting everything. There's a constant signal running through this. Now that cannot be healthy for one of these things. Now it's perfectly fine, I think, when it's below 0, but I wouldn't want to take that chance necessarily all the time. So if I put that back into through, see, I go full gain, mess around with that, there's nothing happening. I mean, if you go full gain, yeah, there's probably the gain itself is causing a little bit of output there, but not a lot, okay? So by the same token, if I put it to half normal, which on this is to the right, if I go half normal here, see the same thing happens, okay? So no matter what you say, you know, or do with a patch bay, you want to have the option of a through mode on your patch bay so that you don't have this happen with anything. Now this will happen with literally every single piece of hardware on here, okay? Like if I did the same thing with my DBX 160A here or anything else, you're gonna get that same signal running through it. It's just a closed loop signal running through your hardware, and that cannot be healthy for it. So using a patch bay that has just a normal and half normal function and doesn't have any kind of a through or isolating function, not a good idea for hardware. Okay, so what I have here is I put together a very basic rack that is actually quite representative of the first few rack setups that I've had in my studio. Some of this hardware has been with me for a number of years, like the patch bay itself. So I have a Focusrite Scarlett 6i6, a couple FMR compressors. I have a really nice compressor, a really nice leveling amplifier. I have my ART Trans-X 2-channel preamp. And then just because I wanted something extra to throw in here, this is just a Lexicon MPX 200 multi-effect unit, just to give you an idea of different ways that you can do this, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the camera around, and I'm gonna turn this around to the back, and I'm just gonna plug it in and show you guys how to basically plan out where to put stuff in the patch bay and how to wire it all up, okay? Okay, so now that we're all set up in the back, we're gonna run through basically how you want to set everything up and how you want to plan all this out. First thing to remember is when you're in the back of the patch bay, left is right, right is left. You're working mirror image of what you're doing in the front. So this is your number 1 channel, and this is your number 24 channel on the patch bay. So instead of working left to right, we're now working right to left, okay? The other thing to remember is you always want your outputs to go in the top, and you want your inputs to come out the bottom, okay? That way, when you're plugging in the front, you're always coming out the top, in the bottom. Your signal flow is always going universally, okay? So basically, like basic patch bay philosophy is always outputs in the top, inputs out the bottom, okay? So the basic idea is there's a couple different ways to organize yourself on the front of the patch bay. Some people will just group everything together. So you'll have your interface, your preamp, a compressor, another compressor, and your reverb unit all grouped together like this. The other philosophy is to leave spaces in between for future expansion, or just to make it easier to see and plan out what you're doing on the front of the patch bay. Now, I tend to be the latter. I tend to like to leave spaces in between things to differentiate different pieces of hardware and what their function are, and also gives me room if I want to add something down the road. I have a place to just plug it in without having to reshuffle all the other connections, okay? So basically what you want to do when you get started is you want to plan out. My tendency is to always have my interface first, and then all the hardware stacked up underneath it in the order that I'm going to use it. So I'll put the interface first, then I will put the preamp second, then the compressors will be third, and then whatever other effects I have will be fourth, because that's basically the way if I'm stacking things in the front, that's the order I'm normally gonna stack them in, okay? So what you basically wanna do then is you wanna start from your left with your interface and then work over to the right in the order in which you're gonna be plugging things in. So let's take a look at my Focusrite interface back here. On the Focusrite interface back here, let me put this up here a little bit more so you can see it. There are a set, there's the usual in the front, there's input 1 and 2 in the front, and then there is also input 3 and 4 in the back, and then there's output 1 and 2 and output 3 and 4. Output 1 and 2 is your monitor output, okay? So you're not gonna be plugging these into this, those are gonna be reserved for your monitors. So you have your output 3 and 4 and your input 3 and 4, okay? Remember also too on these, left and right. 3 and 4 are left and right. 3 is left, 4 is right, okay? Pretty much always with these things, odd numbers are lefts, even numbers are rights, okay? Pretty much the way it almost always goes. If I haven't seen it change yet, if it does, I'll let you know, okay? So the idea now is, again, like I said, run your outputs to the top, your inputs in the bottom, and keep them lined up, okay? So I'm gonna have output 3 and output 4, okay? So output 4 is right, red for right. Output 3 is black, black for left. And you're gonna come down to the patch bay and you're gonna go output 3, output 4. So this will be channel 1 and 2 on the patch bay. 1 is left, 2 is right, okay? So then the same thing on the input side is it's the same thing. Input 3, input 4, left and right. So you come back down to your patch bay, input 3, and input 4. Okay, so now your interface is plugged in to channels 1 and 2 on the patch bay with the outputs from the interface going out the top and the inputs to the interface going in the bottom and then back out to your hardware, okay? So the next thing you have is the preamp, because I'm always gonna put the preamp in next, okay? So the preamp on this particular one is channel 1 and channel 2. And remember what I said, we're working right to left. So channel 1 is on the right, but it's your left channel, and it's the same thing over here, okay? Now I have the wrong cable for this because I forgot about this, that the input, mic input on this is only an XLR, and then the output is 1/4 inch and XLR, and I don't have an XLR cable in front of me. So if you pause once, I'm gonna pause this 1 second, and I will be right back. So now that I have these together, I'm ready to go. Okay, so in this case, we have our input 1 and our input 2 are gonna be XLR. So I have these patch cables here, which are XLR to 1/4 inch. So I have input 1 coming out and going into patch bay, input 1, and I'm gonna leave 2 spaces, okay, for something else to go in here somewhere down the road. So I'm gonna use input 1 is going to be channel 5, and then input 2 over here is going to be channel 6, okay? So then I'm going to run 1/4 inch for the output side, and I'm going to get in the same thing. Channel 1 is your left, so my balanced output, channel 1, and then my balanced output, channel 2. All right, and we're going to go down here and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go balanced output channel 1 and channel 2 for left and right. Okay, so, and believe me, this is gonna get to be a rat's nest really fast. So, you know, that's something you have to be prepared for. Cable management is very important in this, okay? So now I have up top, I have my compressors. I have 2 compressors up here. I have an FMR really nice compressor and an FMR really nice leveling amplifier. This works with any other compressor as well. And I also have this 8-channel snake. Now you can get these from HOSA. This happens to be a cheap mono price that I used for a while, and it actually held up well. It hasn't failed yet, but I don't use it in the big studio anymore. But as you can see, these are all color coded. All the cables are colored. And it doesn't really matter, like, you know, like left, right, you know, like red, black, anything else. Just plug them in and then match up into your patch bay. So and you basically can kind of keep it in a nice little bundle this way too. So you just start plugging the cables in to your hardware, and then we will trace them down to the patch bay underneath. So keep going here, 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 okay? So now you have this end down here to go into your patch bay. And so you basically you just trace out your hardware. On the top one, which is the really nice compressor, I have the channel left in and out. The left in is white, the left out is yellow. So find your white and your yellow. Come down here, pick a channel to put it into. I'm gonna put this into channel 9. So your input is the white, your output is the yellow. So output yellow to the top, input white to the bottom. And then for the right channel, it's blue and gray. That's fitting. So you grab your blue and your gray cables, and you come back down here to the next channel. In this case, this is gonna be channel 10. So my input is blue, my output is gray. So input blue, output gray. All right, and then it's the same thing for the leveling amp underneath. I have black and brown are the left channel, or in this case, yep, the left channel. So then the input is black, the output is brown. So input black, output brown. And then on the final channel, the right channel for that one, the input is green, the output is red. So we're gonna have the input green on the bottom, the output red on top, okay? So now this snake is running both compressors, channel input and output for both channels, and they're matched up into the patch bay. Channel left input white, channel left output yellow, and so on until you get to the red and the green from the other one, okay? And then the final piece of hardware we need to hook up is the lexicon, the reverb unit. Now on the reverb unit, it has the outputs gang together and the inputs gang together, left and right. So in this case, again, we're gonna go left and right. We're gonna say output left, output right, black and red. And we'll come down here and we'll plug this into channel 15 and 16. All right, so these are my outputs. So they go in the top, 15, 16, left and right. And then the inputs to the hardware, again, will be left and right, black left, red right. Come back down to your patch bay, black left, red right. Okay, so now all the hardware that you have available in my studio, in my little example of a studio here, all of my hardware is all plugged in to the patch bay, and it's pretty well organized. I have my interface in channel 1 and 2. I have my preamp in channel 5 and 6. I have my compressors in channels 9 through 12. And then I have the lexicon reverb unit going into 15 and 16. Again, you could just keep all this gang together all in one line and have all one whole side of the patch bay available. But for me, organizationally, it works a little bit better if I leave spaces in between. In some cases, I've gone extreme enough where I would have put the lexicon all the way over on this side. I would have put the compressors here, the preamp would have been here, and then the interface where it is, so that you went all the way across the patch bay. But for this example, we're not going to get that crazy, okay? So now that we turned it around again, and I took some time and I labeled the front of the patch bay with my old school labeler. And what you basically have here is, as I plugged it in the back, is I have the Scarlett 6i6 is coming out 1 and 2. The Trans X is coming out 5 and 6. The really nice compressor is in 9 and 10. The really nice leveling amplifier is in 11 and 12. And the MPX Lexicon unit is in 15 and 16, okay? So, but you basically have there is everything is all lined up and ready for you to go. And then when you're ready to start patching in hardware, you have your patch cables, okay? And what you basically want to do then is, like when you're working on something, you basically just start patching things in. So let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, that I was doing a mix and I wanted to run the master bus out my Focusrite into my Trans X for some really nice preamp goodness, and then into my really nice compressor as a bus compressor. So basically the idea then is that you're going to come out the top. Remember, as I said, you're coming out the top and in the bottom all the way across, okay? So you're going to come out the top of your Focusrite, left channel 3, right channel 4, and you're going to go into the left channel, or in this case channel 1 and channel 2 of your TRX, okay? So now you have signal coming out, output 3 and 4 of your interface coming into the input 1 and 2 of your preamp, okay? And then the next thing you want to do then is you want to come out of your preamp and go into your compressor. So again, it's the same thing. Compressor, preamp channel 1 into compressor channel left, and then preamp channel 2 into compressor channel right. So again, you're coming out the top and in the bottom, all right? So assuming that we don't want to do anything else or anything strange, like put reverb or distortion or something on your master bus, you're patch into anything else. So then you're gonna come out of your really nice compressor and you're gonna go back into, trying to keep the cables from all different colors. Then you're gonna come out your really nice compressor left channel into channel 3 of your interface, and then come out channel right into channel 4 of your interface. Okay, so now you have a stack of hardware patched in. You're coming out of your interface into your preamp, you're coming out of your preamp into your compressor, you're coming out of your compressor and back into your interface, and you're ready to go. Remember that in this case though, gain staging is very important. And just as a quick tip, what I tend to do when I'm doing this is I tend to start by coming out of my interface into my preamp, then I come back out of my preamp and back into the interface, and I get everything leveled and gain staged and everything so that the level coming out of my preamp is equal to the level going in. That way, like, everything is all gain staged. You have your LEDs hitting where you want them to hit. Everything is good, okay? Once you have everything gain staged on your preamp, my tendency is to go into and out of the compressor as well. So I would just jumper over to these and I would get the dry signal set up in the compressor. You know, again, get your ratio set, your attack release times, everything set up, get your threshold set, get your output level set so that, again, it's all gain staged. You're getting the amount of compression you want and everything is ready to go on that. Then I would come back into this and I would set up the chain. I would come out of my interface, go into my preamp. I will come out of my preamp, go into my compressor. Okay, and then come out of my compressor and go back into my interface. And then again, I would just double check all of my level stuff. It's going to change some, but at least you're going to be in the neighborhood of being gain staged all the way through when you do this. Okay, now that's like master bus processing, very simply. Okay, you can also just go, if you want to do individual channel processing, printing in and out. You know, you want to print in some effects onto an individual channel. The idea is basically the same. And you basically approach it exactly the same way. You would come out of your interface. Let's just say that you were doing a mono, anything at this point, right? You would come out of your, pick your output. In this case, I'm going to come out channel 3. And I want to go into I'm going to do a bass. So I'm going to do the really nice leveling amplifier, which is kind of optical-ish kind of a compressor. Go into either channel. It does not matter which channel you go into in your RNLA. Okay, and then you would come back out of your RNLA. Nope, sorry, the RNLA is here. You would come out of your RNLA and go back into your interface. So now you're running, like you could print in a track, a bass track running through one channel of your RNLA, and then back in your interface and print back in. And it's the same idea, just gain, stage it, and go. They're quite that simple. All of the patching and stuff inside the DAW is done inside the DAW. You're just picking your input and outputs on your channel in your DAW, running in and out of your compressor through the patch bay and then back in. Okay, and then it goes the same thing again if you want to run stereo reverb onto your or a delay or something like that. You in your lexicon, you come out of your interface, channel left, channel right, and then into your piece of hardware. In this case, you're running into and out of your lexicon, and then back out of your lexicon, left and right, and back into your interface. So this is a very, very fast and flexible way of patching in your different hardware, and it only takes a few minutes, basically seconds, to swap out different pieces of hardware for different functions, go back in your DAW, set your input and outputs the way you want them, and you're ready to roll. So this is the kind of thing that makes life a lot easier in your studio when you want to, if you're running, I'm running 4 pieces of hardware here with this setup. If you only have 1 piece of hardware, it's really not necessary. You can plug your hardware straight from your interface into your hardware and not worry about it. But as soon as you add a second piece of hardware, this patch bay will make your life a whole lot easier. And I know it does seem kind of wasteful to have this much empty space, but gas being what it is, you're going to acquire more. I promise you that. Once you start down this road, you're never going to stop. Okay? So again, this is just a nice basic overview of how to set up a patch bay, simple basic patch bay setup into a pretty simple type of a rack that, like a lot of beginners could probably identify with very simply. And it's something that I recommend doing. And it's not, like I said, it's not complicated, and it doesn't have to be all that expensive. You can go budget with this or you can spend as much money as you want. But even the budget stuff like this Behringer and these Hosa cables and everything else I have here works just fine and worked for me for a long time.